Vinyl. You like the way it looks. You like the way it smells. Kind of like a bookstore. You like the way it feels in your hands. And you like the price tag applied to it at your merch table after your set. For working bands and artists, vinyl is often considered the top of the pyramid when it comes to merch. And having a label commit to making a run of vinyl on your behalf is a badge of honor of sorts. Because this shit is not cheap. Today, we are obviously going to be talking about the phonograph record, so let's get to it. For the better part of the 20th century, the phonograph record was the primary medium used in music reproduction. It was used alongside the phonograph cylinder since the late 1880s and became the primary means around 1912. Vinyl kept on strong all the way up through the 1980s, even surviving the cassette tape, mostly, but was superseded by the compact disc around 1991. Records have never really been unpopular, but were kept alive in the underground by disc jockeys, metalheads, and audiophiles of all sorts, resulting in increasing popularity since the 2010s. God, that feels so long ago. Records are generally described by their diameter in inches, 12, 10, or 7 being the primary options, or the RPMs at which they are played back, 33 1/3, 45, or 78 RPM. In their early development, records were made from a material called shellac, which is a resin secreted by bugs. But in the 1940s, they started making them out of polyvinyl chloride, hence the nickname vinyl. A record, which we're all familiar with, is a large, flat disc with a modulated groove. It is a spiral which starts towards the outer edge of the disc, and as the record is played back, the needle moves inward, opposite of a CD. Like CDs, vinyl are created from a master disc. Master discs for vinyl are created from a lacquer-coated aluminum or copper, and the music is cut into the disc with a cutting lathe, cutting being the creation of the grooves on the disc. Then the manufacturer creates what are called stampers, which are what press the grooves of the master disc into the blanks when they're being pressed. The masters are coated with liquid silver, dipped into large vats of liquid nickel and given an electromagnetic charge in a process called electroplating. After the plating, they're given an electrified water bath with dissolved nickel, and the nickel fills in the grooves on the silver side of the master. Engineers then remove the metal layer, which creates a mirror image of the grooves on the master. And this stamper can be used to create around 1,500 individual pressings. So a very large production run might go through several stampers. Vinyl balls or biscuits are made from PVC and can be a nearly limitless combination of colors, which are added onto the base colored PVC ball by rolling them around in different PVC sprinkles. But black is the most prevalent. With the stamper in place and the PVC biscuit placed on the plate, tremendous heat and pressure is used to press down the PVC clump and mold it into shape, pressing the grooves from the master disc onto the surface of the blank vinyl. Then, once they've cooled off and been trimmed, test pressings are sent to the record label for approval. And if your record label is feeling very generous, they might even send them to you for approval. The grooves on the disc of the record cause the needle during playback to move left to right, up and down, in which the different characteristics of the music are stored and then played back through the record player. Vinyl records are relatively strong and do not break too easily, but they do scratch pretty easily, so it's very important to handle them carefully. Vinyl readily acquires a static charge which can accumulate dust, which can be difficult to remove. And dust creates scratches which can cause audio clicks and pops during playback, or can even cause the noodle to skip over some grooves or skip backwards. Interestingly, fidelity also decreases somewhat as a record is played back, because there is more vinyl passing the needle per second at the outer edges of the disc, which allows for better reproduction of high frequencies than the closer you get to the spindle. Audiophiles also debate the audio quality of CDs versus vinyl under perfect conditions, and that's probably a video unto itself. But one advantage of vinyl is that if it's stored properly and handled carefully, it can last far longer than CDs. Because the vinyl is more resilient, it has a much longer shelf life. Like tape, but also unlike CDs, vinyl have an A and B side, so it's very important to consider the length of your music or how you would like to divide your album when you are arranging it, deciding song lengths, etc. It's not uncommon we come across a song that's too long to fit on one side or would drive the B side over length as well. And I personally have had to cut a song off an album because it wouldn't fit. I intend to not have to do that again. Pretty much every vinyl I've ever seen has come in a sleeve like this, a paper sleeve with the plastic outer sleeve, and there are different variations for albums that contain more than one disc. There are some that fold out like this with different sleeves for each disc. I also have this one that is just a folding outer sleeve but has the discs individually sleeved but loose within. That's kind of unmanageable, isn't it? Loose in their sleeves inside of a fold. I have seen vinyl that comes with a booklet, but most oftentimes it comes with an insert like this, one page, two-sided, which is generally more than enough to replicate the information that would go in a booklet. Some bands also include posters, which I think is very cool. Having a record label invest in your music enough to do a run of vinyl is considered a big honor, depending on who you ask. Certainly, I'm always honored. But it's also a large investment because that stuff is not cheap. But it does fly off the merch table if you price it appropriately. Online, it's not uncommon to see vinyl go anywhere from $25, $35, depending on the color of the disc, what kind of extras are included, poster, booklet, how many discs. There's a lot of factors, but it's very popular, especially in metal and underground scenes. And if you can get it, you should be flattered. You can also independently source your own vinyl. It's a little trickier. It's usually easier to go through someone who has an existing relationship. And like I said, it's not cheap. Good luck.